So, very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. So, before I speak about the laws and the design frameworks, I want to start with a very ordinary moment or an incident that happens to me day in and day out. So, I often visit, of course, the public buildings, and whether these are commercial complexes or offices or hospitals or institutions, malls, most of them have these very grand, beautiful plinth steps, sometimes two, three, four, five, or maybe a bit more. They have these white stones and a very clean line and an aesthetic appeal, and very often you will see there are no handrails. Now, technically, I can climb these steps because I'm not a wheelchair user, but every time I stand there, my body starts calculating the risk that where do I place my foot now? What if I lose my balance? And then I have to look around not for the entrance, but for a support, whether it's a wall, a pillar, or a stranger. Or many times I have to think twice before going because I need a companion and because I might need help. So this is a common incident that happens with me and probably might also be happening with people who are elder and maybe pregnant women. So many times just the entrance becomes a barrier to most of these buildings. And all this can disappear if we start just designing two simple handrails. So they matter and they matter to all of us, and but we don't install them because we think that either it's only two or three steps, or it will spoil the aesthetics, or it does not look premium, and that's where accessibility fails. Not because of the bad intent, but because of poor understanding, and maybe sometimes it's just neglected. So this is just one common incident, and I am an architect by profession and also a person with the lived experience, as Anjali told. So today I'll be discussing more on understanding physical accessibility and universal design, and starting from why, because what I've observed is many times we just like skip thinking about accessibility. Even like if I talk about when I was diagnosed, before that when I was working on projects, despite having very strong laws in our country, uh, most of them are neglected. So inclusion is often spoken about as a value even in the industry many times, but inclusion is not a feeling, it's a design decision. And accessibility barriers show up in everyday public spaces. We see there are five-star hotels, and even hospitals are designed with a very slippery floor. So slippery washrooms, then doorknobs are placed, which requires a lot of gripping of hands, as well as maybe at times two hands, then high planes with no supports, then narrow parking bays. So these are not rare mistakes, but there are systemic gaps between the policy and the implementation. So accessibility, I'll talk about also the non-negotiables. I think Manmeet ma'am has very well highlighted. And accessibility in public buildings rest on majorly the three dimensions, which includes making your infrastructure accessible, then how we are providing the information, whether it is information on how the building is accessible on the websites, or also inside the building, how we have placed the signages, how the wayfinding is done, then services and management, because many times even if we do have strong policies within our organization, they're not maintained properly, or the infrastructure is there, then it's not maintained, or sometimes we are not aware about the facilities even that do exist in our infrastructure. So, accessibility lies on these three principles, but now is the stage where we're talking about universal design. And I think Nazyati has very well highlighted the seven principles of universal design, because now we're not just saying that accessibility is something meant for persons with disabilities, but it is for all. And most of us need it at some point in our lifetime. So we need to look at designs which are more equitable in use, flexible in use, simple and intuitive, as well as the information is perceptible, the tolerance for error, the low physical effort, and the size and space for approach and use is adequate. So, a handrail again, I would say here is a perfect example of universal design, as well as ramps are a very good example because even for people who are carrying their luggages, they become a very important and essential feature. So now, if we talk about the legal shift in India at the moment, so there are new non-negotiables that are being released. So the draft of the Gazette has been notified recently. That is following a landmark Supreme Court case. So this is a very proud moment for our country where we're looking at having some non-negotiables identified as the mandate for all the infrastructure, and it will no longer be open to interpretation now, as we very well highlighted these non-negotiables. They will be mandatory, but often what lacks is again the implementation part of it. So, for bridging the gap, it's the responsibility of people like us and the professionals in the industry, whether the architects, planners, engineers, consultants, facility managers, decision makers. So, we need to bridge this gap between the law and reality, and we can do this by four major aspects. First thing is including persons with disabilities and people, different users in the space as part of the design process, because many times we don't understand why a particular feature would be needed. So once we have these people involved, it brings us a lot of like it's like a common sense, and then translating these legal mandates into usable dignified spaces, then educating the clients and authorities becomes also a very important duty of architects and auditors to by not just saying that these are legal and ethical responsibilities, but also keeping it as not an additional or an optional add-on, but it's a non-negotiable, and we need to stand for that. So, the solution for the existing and new public buildings that I would like to give here is, firstly, for existing buildings, we need to start with the very high impact and low cost actions, whether it's placing of handrails that are missing in your infrastructure, or signages, pathways, then surfaces. If we have slippery surfaces, we need to look for coatings or solutions that can make that as a non-slip surface. Then for the new buildings, definitely baking inclusion from the starting is the best solution. As we all know, retrofitting is very expensive at times, and inclusive design from the start is efficient as well as compliant. So definitely there are so many ways where we can make our buildings very aesthetic as well as compliant to the universal design and accessibility clauses. So at last, I would just like to mention that accessibility is not a one time approval, it's a continuous commitment. So, in universal design is not just about the compliance, it's about belonging, safety, and dignity for all. The law can mandate the access, but only we can design inclusion. And sometimes inclusion begins with as simple and as powerful as a handrail. Thank you.